Welcome, folks, to this edition of Photo Australia. We've talked a bit in recent editions about software, and we've touched on camera clubs. We're really pleased in this episode to welcome Danny Monaghan, the President of the South Australian Photographic Federation, with us, and their Head of Judging, Keith Seidel. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
We live in strange times at the moment, difficult times. Danny, are you getting much feedback on what's happening within camera clubs and what they're doing to entertain themselves?
So far I've about 30 odd clubs, about 32. I've contacted by phone about over 20, just to see how everyone's traveling and what they're actually doing through the lockdown as such. The majority are still doing competitions, which is great. A whole bunch are actually doing projects. So they're actually setting via their Facebooks and their little websites projects for each of their members to do. I guess it doesn't affect the regional areas as much as it affects the city areas, because realistically, regional areas don't meet as often as the city ones. They're lucky sometimes they meet once every 2 months, and they actually still do a lot of stuff online.
Yep.
An interesting sideline of talking to all of the regional clubs, because what the city ones are now doing with its Zoom, its messengers, its Discord that we use, I put to a lot of them to say, well, you really now should consider in the future that perhaps you do your competitions live, because right now they can be up to 2 months before getting back results, and they've actually got to send everything on Dropbox. Then the judge has to type everything up to send it back to them. And a whole bunch was basically saying that, yeah, that's a fantastic idea, because we've actually got internet within our club room because they're attached to some other club, which is great. So they're thinking now maybe perhaps that they'll actually do all their judging live, which is fantastic. So that will save that time limit right now. I mean, I spoke to one club and they said they'd just got their images back and their results back, and it took 2 months, which that's just not very good to me. No. So that's been a little bit positive.
Yeah.
Most of the clubs are still very active.
Yep.
With my club on Monday night, which would have been 2 nights ago, I actually did an hour and a quarter on lecture on Nick collection live. So they actually saw my screen live on their computers, and I actually went through all the movement and taught them a bit about Nick collection. The week before, we actually did something on Lightroom, doing the exact same thing. And we've got one coming up on Photoshop. And we've got a 5 for 5 competition next Monday night. So we're actually doing probably a bit more than what we actually did before, because it's almost like every week. And Jackie, our president, has been putting onto different websites, etc., different books and things that she's got on lectures. So all in all, I think it's a learning process that people are going through.
Yeah. Danny, I'll just cut to Keith with a question. Keith, how are you finding your judges adapting to this brave new world of tech?
I think it's been grabbed fairly readily by most judges. Some have some specific concerns about remote judging that they've raised with me, but it's been a method of starting out. The biggest concern for judges is not the live judging, even over Zoom, which is not dissimilar to rocking up at a camera club, except you're out of range if someone doesn't like you and wants to throw something at you. So the live judging, a number of clubs are doing that using Zoom and other software, meeting software. The challenge are those clubs who have moved from a live judge to the sorts of remote judging that the country clubs are very familiar with, which is work is made available, it's scored, commented and returned to then be distributed to members. And I've judged a couple of clubs in that situation and know of others. And the number of works that are being put up for judging are at times bordering on far too many. You've got to realise that most of us on the judging list are not touch typists from with the skills that we expected of touch typists from days gone by. And that means if we're typing into an Excel spreadsheet or onto a photocomp screen, our advanced hunt and peck skills means it's going to take about 5 minutes to judge and comment on a photo.
Yep.
So the one thing I would ask clubs who look at this is to just consider the number of entries they're asking judges to judge remotely if we're asking them to do more work than they would normally have done by coming to the club live.
Yeah.
I know that at my club, Edwardstown, we immediately decided to cut the number of entries per member through this process so we weren't putting too much of a strain on our judges, because we have started with the remote judging and then the results coming back and being sent to members. We've moved to reading those out over Zoom, and in the next month or two, we'll probably go to Zoom judging if we're still in this sort of isolation mode.
Yep.
So that's the challenge. Most judges are happy to help. Every now and then, if it takes a lot more time than your judge is expecting, it can cause a problem. So the real thing is just be careful about the number of photos you're asking people to judge. On a live judging, I think 120 a night is a good number. You really push judges beyond that. And I think by remote judging, it would be nice to see that the number was probably somewhere more like about 70 to 80 to give people a comfortable space to work. The other thing that I'm noting is that many clubs are taking different approaches to their competitions through this period. Some are still, whilst print competitions have been put on hold, many clubs are still sticking to their regime of open and set choice subjects.
Yeah.
Other clubs are saying, look, everything's different. We'll just keep it as open subjects now so that everyone can participate as much as they can without having been forced into trying to do things that they might not feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Danny. You touched on workshops and different things that are starting to come out on Zoom. For members that are watching this, how's the best to find? Are you encouraging camera clubs to try and do a bit more through that? Is SAPF got anything new lined up that they might be doing for people that are stuck at home and would like to learn more?
We haven't really gone down that path as yet. And basically, I think, mainly because I think stage 3 will come in July, and we'll actually back to be meeting.
Yep.
Which is interesting. A lot of the stuff that we did on Tea Tree Gully Club, Jackie already pre-owned. She had bought them previously, and she was just sharing them. That's what she was basically doing with that. So we haven't done anything specific. And it's really difficult to sort of know exactly what to share, because every club members at a different level, and the clubs know themselves what their levels. A lot of clubs do a lot more training than other clubs that are maybe slightly older. I mean, wouldn't think Keith's club at Edwardstown would do as much training as Blackwood would or Tea Tree Gully does. So it's very difficult to know which way to go there.
And there is so much out there at the moment, isn't there? I mean, there's you can go to YouTube, you can go to online, you can go to all these places. They've all got their webinars and their training sessions. So,
and I think that's what basically the clubs are doing. They're sort of searching YouTube for certain things on bits and pieces. I know I found 21 different tutorials on Lightroom.
Yeah.
So 21 different ways of doing things. So
So tell me, Keith. So SAPF will be offering typing courses now for judges.
I think that's one that I'll handball to Danny.
And just give me a second, I'll check up on someone. What are you writing on? I haven't got an answer to that. But I mean, realistically, I mean, they're talking about stage 3 coming in July, and they're talking about 100 people being able to meet as long as they can, up to 100, as long as they can social distance. I know so many clubs that are going, yes, we can do that quite easily. I mean, us at Tea Tree Gully, at my club, we've got actually 2 whole classrooms that we can actually open up.
Yeah.
So, and we're only about 30 people, so we could social distance without a problem and meet.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the other clubs are in the same boat. The bigger clubs might not, but it depends how many members actually roll up each week, each meeting.
Yeah.
They don't always, they don't, if you've got 80 members in a club, not 80 turn up.
Yeah.
You're probably lucky. I mean, people probably half if you're lucky.
Yeah. Guys, what's your thoughts on this? Because, you know, we've come out of, this was all a shock. If you said to anybody on the 10th of January, just to pluck a date, that this would have happened, you all would have said, well, get the white jacket and lock him up. But it has happened. It's had an incredible impact on everyone and everything. I've just got a feeling that camera clubs are actually going to emerge from this fairly well, that it's something that I think people are looking for to be doing, and I think it could be quite a, I hate to say it, a positive thing for camera clubs, and particularly with the Zoom and the online meetings and stuff. I mean, we've opened up a whole new world here for us.
Yes, we have. We have. Just on that, I mean, I can only revert back to my apart from SAPF, my own club. And we've actually picked up old members have come back because we're actually doing it online.
Yeah.
So we'll actually increase numbers instead of decrease numbers.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
I hope that continues.
Yeah.
But we have to think at SAPF how to relaunch and how to help the clubs get back onto their feet 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what we're planning. Yeah. We're planning that now. Yeah. We really have started that.
I think what this process has shown is that the clubs that have an active membership core are cruising through this fairly well. Those that have got the ability to think differently and step out of their usual run of practices, like changing the number of entries people can enter, parking the aggregate trophies for this year and saying, that's not what we're about this year, we're about keeping everyone participating, are going to come out really strongly. That's not to say there aren't members in most clubs for whom this technology is beyond them for whatever reasons, whether that's knowledge of IT or willingness to engage with IT. They're the people that clubs are having to spend the most effort from the committee point of view, just touching base and seeing that they're okay, because the camera club scene here is really positive in that welfare aspect, and it's easy to characterise camera clubs as being about competition and judging and practicals and the real hard stuff of fighting over interclub bragging rights and so on. But it's actually that we are a group of like-minded people who have a shared interest that brings us together that we wouldn't otherwise probably even have met in most cases. It's the value of that shared interest that is what will keep our clubs going strongly, because those members are looking for that input. There are lots of alternatives out there now, and not just YouTubes. There's various manufacturers are running their own little Facebook groups. There are alternatives to camera clubs cropping up, but the camera club movement itself still has a very strong value to the community, and those who are active and those who are looking for something at the moment and joining camera clubs during this phase are seeing something that we offer that's a real positive. And I think we need to be kind to ourselves as a movement as we come through this, that this year is different, and whatever we do for the rest of this year, when stage 3 allows us to meet or when our facilities allow us to meet in number, we're going to have to be kind to ourselves and, look at what has happened, and maybe there's some lessons for doing things differently in the future as well.
Absolutely. It's something that Brad and I have talked about on an earlier episode on Photo Australia and clubs and judging. And trying to get the message across that the competition side of it is only a means to an end. Like the competition is a way to show your work, to talk about it, to learn from it, and to share it. The scores don't matter. It's irrelevant, really.
Oh, now hang on a minute. My score always matters.
I was trying to be gentle here.
I can't understand why I get a 6 sometimes.
Well, a 6 is better than a 5, Danny.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Never got a 5 yet, but
A really interesting point in this, though, is when we look at judging and how important it is to some people. We have people in our camera clubs who come with very different motivations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I look at a path of a long-term camera club member, they come along and they're really active and they're into everything and they're entering everything and they're taking heart and soul note of what each judge says on their work. And after a couple of years, I often see those people sort of plateau or even hit a bit of a slump.
yes.
Because they get so confused about the different thoughts, because everyone has a different thought on every photograph they see.
Yeah.
So those who survive and really prosper in the camera club movement realise that a single judge or a panel of judges at the end of year are but one set of opinions.
Yes.
The most important person to please first and foremost is yourself. And those who have been around for a while, stop trying to get a hold of the camera club style to win competitions. And then they move towards, if not fine art photography, being more expressive of their own photographic ideals and start to say, these are the photos I want to show people. And over the years that I've looked at this, generally, when people start doing that, their work gets a greater credibility through the photographic scene. They often actually do better in the higher standard exhibitions.
Yes.
And they then get a thicker skin to the variations from one judge to the next at club level. And if we can keep encouraging our people through the educative aspects of camera club judging to become the best photographers they can be and be able to express their photographic ideas in a way that others can see and appreciate, then we're doing the right thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well put. And it's a really important part, isn't it? Because you see it in every club that that pursuit of awards and scores and all that, but then that transformation can happen, and you can see a person blossom in their work, and it's really, really important to get that through to a new member who comes along to their first meeting or two. Is what's all this about? So it's a real process to just get through to them. Hey, this is a subjective process,
Yes.
and just enjoy it and learn from it, and just run with it.
Yeah. I mean, I would think there'd be every club that would have members that never put anything in, but they don't want to. They're not there for that. They're there for the friendliness of the club, but also to learn things. And I know that from Tea Tree Gully. We've got lots of members who never put one in.
Yeah.
And we barely see it. And then we actually see one, we're going, hang on, why didn't you put something in before? But that's not what their bag was. Their bag was the fact that I want to learn. I want to be part of it. I want to pass on my information on to others as well and my knowledge. And that's great. That's exactly what we are.
Yeah.
It's actually quite surprising. I was thinking the other day that we sort of not frown as much nowadays. We used to always frown on people taking photographs with their phones. But I'm thinking, realistically, we shouldn't be doing that, because that is the beginning of picking up the better photography. That's the beginning. That's the start. That was the old point and shoot. And we're trying to get them. And I think they get to a certain point and they go, well, I need more than this now. I'm more creative than this phone. I need to get to the next stage. And they're the ones we'll be picking up.
You'll need to burn those photos of me using a phone in America.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I have the photograph of
Brad.
Taking photographs in the United States on our trip with his phone.
That would have been
Yeah.
years ago, wasn't it?
I have those. I'm holding them for release at an appropriate time, gentlemen.
No,
We can probably collude on this one.
Yeah, I don't think we need to give Brad too hard a time because he has made unfortunate camera brand choices. So perhaps the phone was.
Okay. All right, which way have you gone, Brad?
I've hardly said anything in this video, and I'm still getting grilled. Unbelievable.
I know I'm not downing taking photographs with your phone, because I mean, the last competition we had was actually photojournalism, and I was walking to the shops and I saw these two girls with two horses in the middle of a paddock, and I'm going, they've got no shoes on, they can't even get up on the horse because there's no saddle, and they were using a bench to stand on the bench to jump onto the horse, and that was the only camera I had with my phone, and it was a great shot. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm not downing them. I just think they'll be the beginning. I think they're the old point and shoots, the old standard camera that everyone bought initially. We will then venture on to other things later.
Well, for those of us with longer memories in the camera club movement, we can remember, if we go back into the 80s, most clubs, the serious photography was the black and white darkroom.
Yes, definitely.
Slides were endured.
They're still endured.
But that wasn't real photography.
No, that's right.
And I actually joined Edwardstown in 1986 because it was the only serious club in the whole of Adelaide that actually accepted commercially processed colour prints.
Good God.
Wow.
And the camera club movement has an opportunity coming out of what we've experienced in the last few months and with the new technology to say, okay, yeah, you're not going to get an A3 print of high quality and fine detail out of a phone camera.
Yes.
But you can get the fun stuff. And separating the competitions from the photo challenges, and whether you do it on a Facebook page or a closed member only Facebook group, which is one of the changes that we've put in at Edwardstown through this process. It's part of how we capture a photo. And the best thing about photography, if you want to improve, is you've got to keep practicing.
Yeah.
You've got to keep taking photos. And rather than lugging the big gear around all the time, if you're still seeing and composing using a phone camera, then that's part of your development process. You're learning what to see, how to see things, how to capture it. And then you'll have a look at it and say, gee, that's okay. I'll come back here with a real camera the next time the weather's like this and the light's good, because I know it works.
That's one thing I've learned is that you're constantly learning. I picked up, I'm only a very new young photographer compared to a lot of people I meet in camera clubs. But one thing I've done a lot of courses in Adelaide with a lot of different professionals. And one thing I thought, once I learn photography, I then basically do my own thing. Well, one thing I have learned is that I'm still going to courses. I'm still going to professional photographers. I would hope, and I'm sure my photography certainly has improved since I first picked up a camera in 2011, I think it was when I first picked up my camera.
Very much so.
But one thing I've certainly come to terms with is that I am still learning off of a lot of other photographers, and I'm actually starting to enjoy other photographers' work more. I'm starting to look at purchasing some of other people's work, and to keep the inspiration and to learn new things and to look for new things. I'm still doing courses down Adelaide and still going along to these workshops to try and keep on improving. And I think it's just a constant thing that you just keep doing through your career, I think.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed, one of the secrets that I'll let out for those people who have ever thought...
Do I have to turn the camera off, Keith?
One of the secrets of judging is that you get to see a lot more work and you get to learn and get exposed to things that you don't see in your own club or in your own networks. And that's a powerful tool for just picking up ideas that you store in the back of the head and say, okay, I'm not going to copy that, but there's something I could work with on that later. And it's very much that judging is not just going there and commenting, critiquing. The best judges critique constructively, offer suggestions for improvement or doing things differently. It's not just that, but it's actually being open to learning and open to listening when someone says, hey, you got that wrong. You got that completely wrong. And you say, okay, great, thanks. And you learn from that as a judge always. You're still also learning every time you go out and talk photography with other photographers.
Yeah, well said.
I think what you also do, though, as you develop your photography, you then find the niche market that you like, the niche category that you want to do. And I know Keith is very much a landscape person, loves landscapes. I personally, I can't see a lot of things in them unless you do a really well landscape. But I'm more of a macro person, and I much prefer to be in a studio because I can create something in a studio just with nothing. And I much prefer to do that. That's my forte of doing things. So I think as you go through, and I think Brad, that's what you're probably alluding to as well, is you start finding out what you're actually good at. Yeah. I mean, some people are fantastic at nature photography, and you go, how the hell did they get that shot? And other people go, oh, okay, how did you do that one? So I think that's what you eventually get to. You get to the fact that, and they're the best ones you put in on competition. But as they say, I mean, I remember Stavros Pipos telling me, the best photographers are lucky to get 6 to 7 images a year that they're happy with. That's a terribly small number for the amount for what they shoot. I mean, 6 to 7. We're expected to try and get 6 to 8 a month in different competitions. So they're not always going to be the fantastic photos, but you'll crack one every now and then and go, that's it. That's a great photo. Yeah, you know it. You know it yourself. You feel it yourself.
Yeah. They're the ones that if you get interested in exhibiting beyond the camera club scene, they're the ones you start to enter into national and international exhibitions. Those exhibitions, probably a bit more than a club level, can be subject to some fashion trends in what scores really well and what doesn't. At the moment, in the international exhibitions that I've seen catalogues from and entering, I'm seeing landscapes not doing as well as they did 3 or 4 years ago. I'm seeing photographs that have people in them, even those that we might describe as somewhat average, are doing really well. Because for some reason at the moment, society has become very people-centred. Whether that's social documentary or portraiture or photojournalism or in photo travel, the society at the moment generally seems to be very people-oriented rather than physical, environmental surroundings oriented. And so that's just interesting to watch. And if your work's good, it will do well in a lot of exhibitions or some exhibitions. But if you know it's good and think it's good, that's still the most important thing.
Interesting subject. And we might actually do another hookup for talking about some of those sorts of things too in another follow-up video. So at the moment, we'll call this video there. I'd like to thank you very much to Keith and Danny for giving you your time and a bit of insight into camera clubs, what's going on, and thanks for coming along, and we'll call this the end of the episode. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, that was great having Danny and Keith along for that episode. We hope to do more of these types of videos as time goes on. With that, if you liked the video, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.